JohnnySomali now faces a series of serious allegations, each carrying the potential for significant legal consequences. Among the charges is obstruction of business, currently at trial, which could lead to up to 5 years in prison and a hefty fine. Investigators are also looking into his alleged involvement in the creation and distribution of deepfake images, a modern and invasive form of defamation that, if proven, could result in similar penalties. Adding to the list are accusations of drug use, with penalties under South Korea's Narcotics Control Act ranging up to 5 years for simple possession and potentially more for trafficking or repeat offenses. Rounding out these allegations are multiple counts of assault, which could carry penalties of 2 to 10 years, depending on the severity of injuries caused. Together, these charges form a troubling web of legal challenges that will determine the next chapter of JohnnySomali's life. As trials and investigations unfold, the spotlight remains on how justice will ultimately be served. In South Korea, one of the criminal charges making headlines today is obstruction of business, a crime that may not seem immediately severe, but when proven in court, it can carry heavy consequences. Imagine walking into your local convenience store expecting to pick up a snack. But instead, the calm atmosphere is disrupted by chaos, employees unable to do their jobs, customers growing impatient. What if this disruption lasts for hours, causing not just inconvenience but financial loss to the store? This is the crime known as obstruction of business. And right now, a defendant, JohnnySomali, finds himself standing trial for this very charge. At its core, obstruction of business occurs when a person intentionally disrupts or interferes with the normal operations of a business. This can include physical confrontations, damage to property, or creating disturbances that prevent employees from doing their work. In JohnnySomali's case, the charge stems from an incident at a 7-Eleven store, where he is accused of causing a major disruption. This type of behavior can severely impact not just the store, but also the employees and customers present at the time. Under South Korea's Criminal Act, Article 314, the penalties for obstructing business can be significant. If convicted, JohnnySomali could face up to 5 years in prison and/or a fine of up to 15 million Korean won, the equivalent of nearly 11,000 US dollars. However, the severity of the sentence isn't always straightforward. It depends on the details of the case. Factors such as the nature of the disruption, how long it lasted, and the level of harm it caused to the business play a critical role in determining the penalty. For instance, if the obstruction was violent or led to significant damage, the court could lean toward the maximum penalty. On the other hand, if the disruption was minor or isolated, a lesser sentence could be imposed. In the case of JohnnySomali, prosecutors are working to prove that his actions not only interfered with daily operations, but caused lasting damage to the business's ability to function properly. The evidence, physical damage, witness testimonies, and footage could paint a clear picture of the severity of the obstruction. As the trial continues, it's crucial to remember that obstruction of business is a serious offense, one that affects not only businesses, but the economy and the people working there. With the potential for up to 5 years in prison and substantial fines, this case will undoubtedly set a precedent for similar charges in the future. For JohnnySomali, the consequences of this trial are far-reaching. Whether he faces a reduced sentence or the full weight of the law will depend on the evidence, the defense, and how the court chooses to interpret the case. As this case unfolds, it serves as a reminder that interfering with the operations of a business is not just a nuisance, it's a criminal act, and the law has consequences for those who choose to disrupt the system. In the age of technology, the line between reality and deception can often blur, and when that deception is used to harm someone's reputation, the consequences can be severe. One of the most recent cases making headlines involves JohnnySomali, a man currently under investigation for allegedly being involved in the creation and distribution of deepfake images. These manipulated photos, often indistinguishable from real ones, are now at the center of a high-profile defamation case. Deepfakes are realistic images or videos that have been digitally altered using artificial intelligence, making it appear as if someone is saying or doing something they never actually did. While the technology behind them is impressive, the impact of their misuse can be devastating. In JohnnySomali's case, the police are investigating whether deepfake images were used to harm the reputation of multiple individuals. If it's proven that these images were created or distributed by him, the consequences could be dire. Under South Korea's defamation laws, Defaming someone with fabricated images, including deep fakes, is considered a criminal offense. If JohnnySomali is found guilty, he could face up to 5 years in prison and substantial fines, penalties that reflect the seriousness of defamation in today's digital world. But the case doesn't stop there. The real complexity comes from his alleged involvement in spreading these deep fake images. Investigators have uncovered that JohnnySomali may have been using his Discord account to share these images with others, potentially amplifying their reach and causing even more damage. Spreading defamatory content online can exponentially increase its harm, reaching thousands or even millions of people in a matter of seconds. By sharing these deep fakes, Johnny would not only be contributing to the spread of false information, but he could also face additional charges related to online defamation, which carry their own set of penalties. The prosecution will need to prove that Johnny not only created or altered these deep, fake images, but also that he intentionally spread them to harm the reputation of the victims involved. If they succeed, Johnny could face the full extent of the law, including prison time and fines. However, Johnny's defense team might argue that the images were created by someone else, or that he was unaware of the full impact of sharing them. This could complicate the case further. While Johnny may attempt to shift blame, the law is clear. In South Korea, defamation through deep fake images is taken seriously, especially when it involves widespread online distribution. And with the growing concerns around digital misinformation, cases like this are setting important legal precedents. As deepfakes become more common and easier to create, the legal system is working hard to keep up. This case highlights just how serious the consequences of digital defamation can be, especially when the spread of harmful images is deliberate. For JohnnySomali, the stakes are high. If convicted, he could face significant prison time, a heavy fine, and a lasting stain on his reputation. The case serves as a stark reminder. In the digital world, actions have consequences, and what may seem like harmless online behavior can have serious real-world repercussions. As investigations continue, this case could reshape how deep fakes are handled in the court of law, serving as a warning to those who think they can hide behind the digital veil. In cities around the world, the battle against illegal drug use continues to evolve, with authorities tightening their grip on anyone caught in violation of narcotics laws. In South Korea, the Narcotics Control Act serves as a powerful tool in regulating drug use and trafficking, but for one individual, the investigation into their actions could lead to severe consequences. JohnnySomali is now under investigation for suspected drug use. While his case has yet to go to trial, the police are leaving no stone unturned as they gather evidence under the Narcotics Control Act. Under the Narcotics Control Act, the penalties for simple drug use are already significant. If convicted, Johnny could face up to 5 years in prison and hefty fines. However, the legal system doesn't stop there. The penalties can be much harsher depending on the circumstances surrounding the case. In South Korea, the law takes a firm stance against drug use. Even for first-time offenders, a conviction under the Narcotics Control Act can carry a lengthy prison sentence. While Johnny is facing accusations of personal drug use, the stakes rise significantly if authorities uncover evidence of trafficking or repeat offenses. If the investigation reveals that Johnny was involved in the distribution or trafficking of narcotics, the charges will be far more severe. Drug trafficking is a separate charge under the Narcotics Control Act and can lead to much higher penalties, including lengthier prison sentences and larger fines. And for those caught multiple times, the law is even more unforgiving. Repeat offenders face escalating sentences, meaning Johnny's past could haunt him if his drug use is found to be part of a longer pattern. The investigation isn't just about uncovering whether Johnny used drugs. Authorities are also looking at any connections to larger networks. Are there links to trafficking operations? Did he introduce others to drug use? Did he profit from the distribution of narcotics? Any connection to drug trafficking could dramatically increase the penalties he faces. The authorities are meticulously tracing every lead, from his personal habits to his associations. Investigators are delving into his communication history, checking messages for any indication of illicit deals. With new technology at their disposal, police can track online exchanges and uncover evidence of drug-related activity faster than ever before. If the evidence points to trafficking, Johnny's future could take a darker turn. Convictions for trafficking narcotics can result in up to 10 years in prison or more, depending on the quantity and the severity of the offense. Even if Johnny is only convicted for drug use, the potential consequences are still dire. South Korea's legal system takes narcotics crimes seriously, and anyone caught under the Narcotics Control Act can expect harsh penalties. Whether this is his first offense or part of a larger network, Johnny's involvement with drugs could mean serious jail time, fines, and a permanent criminal record that will follow him for years. But Johnny's case isn't unique. The crackdown on narcotics is a priority for law enforcement in South Korea, where the fight against illegal drugs is ongoing. And with the rise of synthetic drugs and trafficking, authorities are under pressure to take swift and firm action. As the investigation continues, JohnnySomali faces the full force of the law. The outcome of this case could send a powerful message. Drug use and trafficking come with consequences, and the law will not hesitate to make an example of those who break it. For those caught in the web of narcotics, the road ahead is uncertain. For Johnny, his future is now in the hands of the court. In a world where violence can sometimes erupt unexpectedly, the consequences for those who resort to physical harm are severe. Assault is not just a crime against the victim, but a crime against society. For JohnnySomali, the police are currently investigating multiple counts of assault. If these allegations are proven true, he could face penalties that range from 2 to 10 years in prison, depending on the severity of the injuries inflicted. Under South Korean law, assault charges are categorized based on the level of harm caused to the victim. Whether Johnny's case involves a minor injury or more severe harm, the penalties he faces will vary. At the lower end of the scale, if the assault resulted in minor injuries, such as bruises or scratches, Johnny could face up to 2 years in prison. While still serious, these charges are less severe than cases involving more extensive harm. However, if the injuries were more significant, broken bones, head trauma, or other serious bodily harm, the penalties increase sharply. In such cases, the courts may impose 5 years or more in prison. The seriousness of the assault will be weighed by the degree of medical intervention required to treat the victim. The more invasive the treatment, the harsher the penalty Johnny could face. Severe head injuries or lasting disabilities can result in charges of grievous bodily harm, which carries a higher sentence. If Johnny is found guilty of causing substantial harm, including broken bones, organ damage, or long-term pain, the court could impose sentences of up to 10 years in prison. The law takes assault very seriously, especially when victims suffer lasting damage. In cases where the assault involved excessive violence, the charges could be further escalated. If the victim was targeted in a brutal, unprovoked attack, or if the assault occurred in an environment where the offender had prior intent or malice, Johnny could face even harsher penalties. The law seeks to punish not just the injury, but the intention behind the act. As authorities investigate, they will examine all available evidence, including witness statements, security camera footage, and medical reports. This will determine the nature of the injuries and help establish whether the assault was premeditated or spontaneous. In court, the prosecution will argue that the assault is not just an isolated event, but a violent act that puts others in danger. The defense, however, may argue for lesser charges, possibly claiming that Johnny's actions were unintentional or provoked. For those found guilty of assault, the impact can be long-lasting, both for the victim and the offender. A conviction could result in jail time, a criminal record, and a permanent stain on one's reputation. For JohnnySomali, the stakes are high. If found guilty of even a single count of assault, his life could change forever. Whether it's minor or grievous harm, the legal system in South Korea offers no leniency when it comes to violent crimes. And as the investigation unfolds, Johnny faces the very real possibility of a lengthy prison sentence. As JohnnySomali's legal battles continue to unfold, the outcomes of these cases will not only shape his future, but also highlight the consequences of his actions. Stay tuned for more updates on this developing story, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth coverage and insights.